And a good spiritual morning to you once again. I'm Father Cosmas. Thanks for joining me today for a quick chat and, of course, our morning cup of coffee. And I wanted to talk today a little bit about something that, a story that was told to me recently. And it's a story from a married couple. And the husband's at home, the wife has come back from shopping. And she's gone shopping to a bunch of different stores. And one of them is sort of like a Hobby Lobby type store where you can buy those plaques of all different sizes that have the beautiful quotes, sometimes Bible quotes or just life lesson quotes. And she bought this long little quote and she brings it home, pulls it out of the bag, and as the husband is sitting in the den, in the family room where the fireplace is, she walks over and she puts it on the mantle of the fireplace. And it says on it, "Life doesn't have to be perfect to be wonderful." It's not a big plaque, it's sort of a long little plaque. And the husband gets up and he walks over and he reads it and he says, "Wow, that's a great message. Thank you for putting that there." And she said, "Of course." And then he proceeds to reach up to the plaque that says, "Life doesn't have to be perfect to be wonderful." And he moves it over just a quarter of an inch because it was not centered on the mantle. And I thought, what a great story to indicate, how we sort of think we understand who we are, but far often we don't know ourselves very well, right? It's sort of, you're reading a quote about perfectionism, right? Not being a perfectionist, but accepting that it's okay to not have everything the way that you want, just as you want it perfectly, but that life can still be great, can still be beautiful and wonderful. And in the midst of that, adjusting it so that it's perfect. And far too often in the spiritual life, we don't really know ourselves very well. We're not very well acquainted with our strengths and with our weaknesses because we sort of tell ourselves, well, I'm okay about pretty much everything, right? And the stuff that we're not good at, we sort of rationalize away and say, well, I don't have to worry about that. I'm trying to be a good Christian. I deal with people, well, but I don't always come to church. But that's not the most important thing if I don't come to church. Or, I'm good at praying. I love praying, but fasting, I'm not very good at that. But does it really matter if is that really going to make that big of a difference? So we sort of in our minds rationalize all of these things, and we don't know ourselves very well. And you have to really be self-aware in the spiritual life to know what you're good at and what you can improve at so that, of course, you can put a plan in place and try to do those things. If you're a stressful person, an anxious person, you should know that about yourself. And you should realize, I've got to be a little bit more patient with people. If you're a person that can be a little bit judgmental, if you find yourself constantly passing judgment on people, even if it's just in your own mind, you should recognize that about yourself and understand that. If you're a person that likes to talk about other people a little bit, likes to sort of text a little bit too much or get on the phone a little bit too much, and feel free to share information that you've learned. Maybe you just are kind of a gossip and you need to know that. Maybe I need to step back and try to, control that. I don't have to tell everybody everything all the time. Being self-aware is so important in the spiritual life because if you don't know where there is room for improvement, you're never going to improve it. You're going to think, well, everything's fine and I'm doing just fine and dandy. And you're constantly adjusting the plaque and not realizing the irony in that. So I think it's important for us to understand who we are, reflect on who we are, really think about it. And then once we sort of come to a realization of that, and by the way, if you can't, feel free to ask your spouse. I'm sure they'll tell you exactly who you are and what you need to work on, but do that in a loving way. But if we can do that, then we can start working on those things a little bit, as much as we possibly can, and get closer and closer to Christ each and every day. Amen.